I've seen videos and articles in the past ranking pundits on their talents of analysis and insight, which is after all their job, but I'm not going to bore you with all that today. After all, we all know Michael Owen is the best with his consistent tone and gripping assessments of what's going on, whilst Gary Neville is the worst with his squawking alongside Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports. This is just common knowledge. Instead, I'm going to take a look at the prominent UK football pundits and rank them based on their ability as players. Thank you to Charlie Boys, who I used to go to school with, and who recently came to my book launch. Yes, I've got a book out, go to www.englandsgreatestdefender.com, who suggested this idea. Well, he actually suggested the 7 pundits who are the most successful as players, but I decided to make it 10 times harder for myself by including them all and making it totally subjective so as to open it up to fierce debates and wide-scale abuse of myself in the comments. I should say it is impossible to include every former player who has done any work for Sky Sports, BBC, BT Sport or ITV as a pundit ever, obviously, but I have selected what I believe to be the 33 most prominent pundits on UK television right now, specifically covering the Premier League and international games and tournaments. We will be going from worst to best because that's what 86% of you suggested on Twitter when I asked you. Here are my views on which pundits were the best and worst as players. Robbie Savage. The start of this list is pretty harsh because to carve out a career in football punditry, you have to have been half decent as a player, and Robbie Savage certainly was that. You may recall John Terry a few years back saying Savage couldn't criticise him because he played at a quote, really bad level. Certainly, Savage was no Terry, but he did make 346 Premier League appearances and won 39 caps for Wales, the latter of which should actually have been a fair few more. He wasn't the most technically gifted, which is why he's last here, but he was an effective all-action midfielder for a number of years. Kevin Kilban. Don't quote me on this, but I suspect Kevin Kilban may be the most capped player in this entire video, and some Irish viewers may feel second to last is an outrage for the man who won 110 caps for the Republic. Kilban was a very decent, honest and versatile player who played his best football at Sunderland and Everton. Danny Mills. A man who was quite easy to dislike during his playing days, and is seemingly equally prickly as a pundit, let that not detract from the fact that Danny Mills did have his talents. He won 19 caps for England, at a time when the three lions were rather spoilt for choice in defensive areas. Primarily a right back, also capable of playing as a centre back, Mills was strong and uncompromising, and his peak probably came during his last few seasons at Leeds United. Garth Crooks. I have to say Garth Crooks' BBC Team of the Week is a thing of beauty. The way he manages to shoehorn Sergio Aguero in as a left-back or Tom Heaton as a number 10 is as amusing as it is remarkable that he has managed to keep that job, and he deserves far more credit than he gets for that. As a player, the Staffordshire native scored with some regularity for Stoke City, Tottenham Hotspur and Charlton Athletic. He bagged 16 goals for Spurs in his best top-flight campaign, and he comes in at 30th here. Andy Hinchcliffe. We're only at the start of this video, but we're still dealing with some really decent players. Up until Trent Alexander-Arnold made 12 last season, Andy Hinchcliffe held the joint record for the most assists made by a defender in a Premier League season with 11. A rampaging left-back and free-kick specialist, Hinchcliffe starred for Man City, Everton and Sheffield Wednesday, in addition to winning 7 caps for England. Phil Neville. Again, this seems cruel, but Phil Neville will probably be the first to admit that he achieved an extraordinary amount with the relative skill set he had at his disposal. His versatility certainly helped him, being able to fill in at right back or left back, and later playing predominantly in midfield at Everton. He played over 300 games for both Manchester United and Everton, as well as winning 59 caps for England, but he can only make 28th in this list. Danny Murphy. Danny Murphy is a difficult player to assess in relation to others, and I must admit that I don't particularly rate his skills as a pundit, although I will add that that hasn't impacted my decision making for anyone in this video. Murphy was a hard-working central midfielder with a good range of passing and the ability to hit the odd belter. He scored some really important goals for Liverpool, won a treble at Anfield as a regular fixture under Gerard Houllier, and represented his country 9 times. Trevor Sinclair. If this list was a list of which pundits had scored the best goals, Trevor Sinclair may well come out on top, since his overhead kick against Barnsley is still one of the best goals I've ever seen. Sadly for him, it isn't, but he was still a talented right winger and deservedly comes in at 26th. Sinclair won 12 caps for England, including 4 at the 2002 World Cup, and he's held in high regard by supporters of Blackpool, QPR, West Ham and Man City. Dion Dublin. Into the top 25, and we come to the inventor of the Jube. Listeners to That Peter Crouch podcast will be well aware of Dion Dublin's musical prowess, but he was also pretty handy as a centre forward in the 1990s and early 2000s. He made a big money move to Manchester United in 1992, but after he broke his leg, the club were forced to go back into the transfer market and sign another forward by the name of Eric Cantona. Dublin went on to score plenty of goals with Coventry City and Aston Villa, and the powerful header of a ball comes in at 25th. Jermaine Jenas. I'll try to speed things up, and our next entrant was a really talented midfielder whose 21 caps for England maybe don't tell the full story. Jenas was unfortunate to be up against the likes of Gerrard, Lampard and Scholes for a spot in the England team, so 21 caps isn't bad going, and that was in spite of his career being blighted by injuries from the age of 27 onwards. He still played some excellent football for Newcastle and Tottenham, and he joins esteemed company in having won the PFA Young Player of the Year award back in 2002-03. Niall Quinn. The second Irish legend in this video, Niall Quinn, was one of the finest headers of a ball the English game has ever seen. His proficiency with not just his head, but also his right foot, intelligent movement, and attacking nous brought about 163 goals from 551 games over the course of his career, including 20 for Man City in his best season. Chris Sutton. Another talented header of the ball, Chris Sutton's form was a little patchy at times, but he did have some truly fantastic seasons. He bagged 28 goals in his last season at Norwich City, 21 in his first season of Blackburn Rovers as the club won the Premier League, and he was tied for the Premier League Golden Boot in 1997-98. Sutton only won one cap for England following a fallout with Glenn Hoddle, but later enjoyed success north of the border at Celtic. Alan Smith. I'm starting to sound like a bit of a broken record, but any of you who have played FIFA at any time in the last 8 years will know that Alan Smith was rather renowned for his heading ability, particularly diving headers. He also had a neat first touch and a good engine, and although he wasn't the most prolific, he would be an excellent foil for just about any strike partner. Jamie Redknapp. A little like Jermaine Jenas, but to an even greater extent, Jamie Redknapp was a really talented central midfielder who just had an appalling injury record. Redknapp spent 9 years at Liverpool, impressing with his sharp technique, range of passing, and ability from dead ball situations, before injuries got the better of him. During his peak years in the mid to late 1990s, he won 17 caps for England. Martin Keown. Martin Keown's career was put under the spotlight earlier this year after Mesut Ozil's agent took a pop at him, saying he was only ever a reserve at Arsenal. Clearly that wasn't really the case, since Keown made over 300 appearances for the Gunners and was ranked as their 20th best player of all time by the club themselves. Keown was a tough, athletic and aggressive centre-back who was part of some excellent Arsenal defences under George Graham and Arsene Wenger. Paul Merson. Sticking with Arsenal, the next inclusion in this video, I say with all due respect, is maybe the most ill-informed pundit on all of UK TV. In spite of that, Merson was an excellent footballer and he could have been an even better one were it not for alcohol and drug problems. A gifted and well-rounded midfielder, Merson was creative and good on the ball. He won 7 trophies at Arsenal, 1 at Aston Villa, and was the 1989 PFA Young Player of the Year. Graham Lasso. A versatile footballer who eventually settled at left back, Graham Lasso was once the most expensive defender in English football and he won 36 caps for England. Quick, hard-working, and capable of whipping some great balls into the box, Lasso, twice made the PFA Team of the Year, is a Chelsea legend and won a Premier League title with Blackburn Rovers. Charlie Nicholas. Another one of the Gillette Soccer Saturday panel, Charlie Nicholas, was a bit of a maverick centre-forward whose exciting style of play provided a welcome tonic for Arsenal fans during a period of relative strife during the 1980s. He bagged 54 goals in 184 games for the Gunners, in addition to starring for both Celtic and Aberdeen. Lee Dixon. A brilliant right-back who formed one quarter of Arsenal's formidable back four of Dixon, Adams, Bolden, Winterbottom, he has the 4th most appearances of any player in Arsenal history, in addition to winning 22 caps for England. Owen Hargreaves. There's a bit of a theme emerging here, in as much as a lot of pundits either seem to be English strikers who were good in the air, or gifted midfielders who were plagued by injuries. Owen Hargreaves belongs firmly to that second category as a fantastic tireless midfielder and playmaker at his best before he suffered a series of terrible setbacks that began with a leg break in 2007. He was a brilliant player though, and a set-piece specialist, and if England could have had him as a regular fixture in holding midfield, Gerrard, Lampard and Scholes may have had much finer England careers. Phil Thompson. A better player than Pundit, Phil Thompson, was a graduate of the Liverpool Academy who went on to play almost 500 games for the club, winning 7 league titles, 3 European Cups, and 12 other trophies. He now works on Gillette Soccer Saturday for Sky Sports. Matt Le Tissier. A fellow Soccer Saturday panellist, Matt Le Tissier was a sensational footballer. Renowned for his technique, aversion to running, and loyalty to Southampton, Le Tissier bagged over 200 goals from attacking midfield during his career, many of which were audacious long-range efforts. He supposedly could have joined the likes of Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Blackburn, but he didn't, and he only ended up winning 8 caps for England. Gary Neville. There will be those who argue that Matt Le Tissier was a better footballer than Gary Neville, in the purest sense of the term, and those people will be right. It's a very different set of skills that make a great right back compared to a great attacking midfielder though, and Neville was certainly a very good right back. A one-club man, he played over 600 games for Manchester United, where he won 20 trophies, and made the PFA Team of the Year 5 times, the PFA Team of the Century, and won 85 caps for England. Ian Wright. Moving into the top 10, we start with prolific former non-league marksman Ian Wright. The Match of the Day regular was a quick and instinctive goal-getter who is Crystal Palace's record post-war goal scorer and was Arsenal's all-time record goal scorer before being overtaken by Thierry Henry. He scored 9 goals from 33 caps for England during an era of outstanding English strikers. Steve McManaman. We're now talking about players who could all fairly be described as world-class at the peak of their powers, and Steve McManaman was a fantastic playmaker, a brilliant dribbler of the ball, quick and industrious. He could play out wide or through the middle, and after 9 years at Liverpool, he joined Real Madrid in 1999, where he won 2 La Liga titles and 2 Champions League titles. His 37 England caps aren't really a fair reflection of his many talents. Mark Lawrenson. Jose Mourinho often used to bemoan the large number of ex-Liverpool players in the Sky Sports, BBC, and BT Sport studios, and we're starting to see what he means around this point in the video. Mark Lawrenson was a brilliant ball-playing centre-half who starred for Liverpool during the 1980s, forming a formidable centre-back partnership alongside Alan Hansen. Michael Owen. Another former Anfield favourite, Michael Owen rather sullied the good favour he had among Liverpool fans when he joined Manchester United and won a Premier League title under Sir Alex Ferguson. One really ought not forget just how brilliant Owen was when he first came onto the scene and prior to hamstring injuries restricting his lightning pace. He was frighteningly fast, afraid of no one, and a relentless scorer and creator of goals. He hit 23 goals in each of his first 2 seasons as a regular at Liverpool as a teenager, in addition to scoring one of England's best ever World Cup goals. A 2-time Premier League Golden Boot winner and 1-time Ballon d'Or winner, Owen scored a total of 222 goals in 482 games at club level and 40 in 89 for England. Alan Shearer. Another top-class English striker, a good case could be made for Michael Owen being a better footballer than Alan Shearer, but given Owen's injury record and Shearer's consistency at the top level, the Geordie just edges it. No one has scored more goals in England's top flight since 1992, with Shearer having had 11 20-plus goal seasons and 4 30-plus goal seasons during a career in which he bagged 379 goals in 734 games at club level and 30 from 63 for England. Shearer scored every type of goal conceivable, he won 3 Premier League Golden Boots, made the PFA Team of the Century, and has been a regular fixture on Match of the Day for some time now. Rio Ferdinand. I will tell everyone who doesn't want to know that Rio Ferdinand was the best centre-back of the Premier League era, and the majority of those who played with or against him will concur. Vidic, Terry, Carvalho, there's fierce competition, but Prime Ferdinand was almost without flaw. He was quick, strong and dominant in the air, but read the game brilliantly, was neat on the ball and could pick a pass. He made the PFA Team of the Year 6 times when all that was on offer at Manchester United and ought to have won at least 100 caps for England. Glenn Hoddle. As we come to the very best pundits as players that are out there, talking of people who ought to have won more caps for England, Glenn Hoddle's tally of 53 ought to be a national disgrace. A 2-footed midfield magician with sensational balance, technique and vision, Hoddle could glide past players, pick out an opponent or bag a goal for himself. He came through the youth ranks and spent much of his career at Spurs, later starring for Monaco, Swindon and Chelsea. He too made the PFA Team of the Century and is maybe the most naturally gifted player in this entire video. Graham Souness. Glenn Hoddle is certainly a naturally and technically superior footballer to the 2 men up next, starting with Graham Souness, but both were still better players in their respective positions as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes mocked for his overt dislike of Paul Pogba, Souness's punditry can be an acquired taste, but his playing days do allow him to pass judgment with some authority. Souness, it could be argued, was Liverpool's most important player as the club won 5 league titles and 3 European Cups during the Scots' 6.5 seasons at Anfield. A tireless runner, exceptional reader of the game, and a brilliant passer of the ball, Souness was primarily a spoiler, but his talents in possession were often underrated, and he was even the European Cup's top scorer in the 1980-81 season. Roy Keane. Anyone who has been a subscriber to this channel for any length of time will be well aware of my views on Roy Keane, since I even made a mini documentary video about him once. Oh, and if you're not yet subscribed, then you know what to do. It's sad to see that a lot of younger football fans who maybe didn't get to see much of Roy Keane only know of him for his abrasive style, his hardman image, and his battles with Patrick Vieira. Those are all things of Keane's own creation, and he seems unmoved by that being the image of him now, and probably actively encouraged it during his playing days. Nevertheless, it does him a disservice. Keane was a superb all-action central midfielder with fantastic energy, awareness, touch, and weight of pass. He was also perhaps the finest captain in the sport's history, and he comes in second here. Paul Scholes. Now, I say this as someone who loved watching Paul Scholes as a player, but he is among the worst pundits out there as far as I'm concerned. He may have been brilliant on the pitch, but it's clear to see Scholes pays little attention to football outside of these shores, and his analysis could rarely be described as cutting edge. Some of you may be watching this, and I'm talking about only the most dedicated and attentive of HITC Sevens viewers, and thinking, hang on, Paul Scholes didn't make your list of the 100 greatest footballers of all time, whilst Roy Keane and Graham Souness did, so why is he ahead of them here? And you raise a good point. That video was in regards to the greatest players, taking into account not just the players' talents, but also their effectiveness, influence, importance, and a whole raft of other factors. The criteria for this video was much more concerned with how good they were as players, and although I'd say Roy Keane was more important to Manchester United and football as a whole over the last 25 years, Paul Scholes was still the more talented footballer. Scholes started out as an adventurous and creative goalscorer midfielder who played as a striker in youth team football, but dropped deeper later in his career, becoming a superb deep-line playmaker who pulled the strings in the United midfield. Scholes played over 700 games for Manchester United and should have won far, far more than 66 caps for England. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, in fact please do, and make sure you're subscribed to HITC Sevens, and head over to www.englandsgreatestdefender.com to have your mind blown by the best football book ever written.